Welcome to the Get Back, music work talk in Central Texas, Fridays at 1 p.m. Brought to you by the Austin Federation of Musicians and with the Unemployment Compensation Advisory Committee. The Unemployment Compensation Advisory Committee are members of the Austin Federation of Musicians, Local 433 of the American Federation of Musicians, aka the Musicians Union. Some of us work as contractor 1099 workers, and others work as employee W-2 workers in various aspects of the music industry.
The goal of this session is to share our experiences, including trials and tribulations related to the Texas Workforce Commission, or TWC, with other musicians in the state of Texas to aid in navigating the TWC application process. We are not experts in unemployment assistance. We are musicians.
The information contained herein does not constitute either legal advice or an official pronouncement or a position of the Austin Federation of Musicians, but rather is only the personal opinions of the panelists. The panelists do not give legal advice or make official rulings on agency matters, should not be cited as authorities in any matter before the agency or when dealing with agency staff about a case, and must minimize their involvement with administrative processes. They also do not give legal advice on any other matter, and any information they should give should not be used as a basis for taking any employment-related action. Before taking any employment action that could adversely affect an employee, or before using any sample form or policy you may obtain from this group, you should consult a licensed private sector employment law attorney of your choice. All right, welcome to the Get Back for July 2nd, 2021. I'm Aaron, and joining me is Russell as well. Welcome, Russell. Yeah, we always mention the collection of links down in the description of the show down there, and those are kind of our best practices links for getting info on the first group of links is, of course, about unemployment information. That's sort of the original focus of this show. And then the more specific links about what we're talking about this week are below that. So always check there. And we always start with beverages. I'm doing coffee as per usual. You got a beverage over there, Russell?
Bring water.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Works as usual.
The drink of life right there. Excellent, excellent. Well, we've got a few things to kind of run down today. Of course, the cutoff of unemployment insurance or unemployment aid in Texas happened last week, and it's not all unemployment aid, right? It's just all the stuff, which is a lot, that was coming from the federal government. So all the state aid is still there if you qualify for it. Because some of the federal aid that was coming in made it so people qualified for unemployment assistance that wouldn't have qualified before, which is a lot of our brothers and sisters in the music business who work as contractors, right? And folks that work in the gigging, what they call gigging industry or the gigging economy, which we kind of invented. We've been using that word gig longer than anybody else. So yeah, a lot of folks got cut off of there. But, of course, depending on when you make your payment requests, you may still have to make a payment request this coming week for the week that ended June 26th. So don't forget about that. And like our sister Daisy said a couple weeks ago on the show, probably the best practice is to keep making those payment requests until you are unable to make them anymore. So just keep making them on your scheduled date, and report your income just like you always would for those weeks that are in there. If you qualify for state unemployment, TWC is supposed to automatically roll you onto that program that you qualify. If you don't, then you still qualify for some of the job training video courses and stuff that TWC has and stuff, but that's about it. Yeah, rough week, a lot of stress, a lot of folks trying to figure out how that's going to pan out for their situation. So we've been talking to a lot of musicians at the union office, and of course on our Facebook page even, we were just talking about, we were kind of thinking maybe that Facebook page wouldn't be so relevant anymore, but maybe it will be still going forward. There's still a lot of things being worked out about the TWC, and Yeah, Russell and I, you and I were just talking about this article in the Statesman about um, gosh, where'd it go? This group that's suing the Texas government, the Texas Rio
Yep.
Grande Legal Aid
hmm
group that's suing the Texas government. About people that may have applied for aid but didn't get it because of some flaw in the system. Of course, we're aware that there are many flaws in the system. Including the phone system, but there's lots of other reasons why somebody might have gotten denied because of all the bureaucracy and the sort of broken computer system and everything. So, yeah, so that'll be really interesting to see if that happens. And there's another group of folks that are um, they I think they tried to sue the county government of Travis County first to to try to get them to reinstate the aid, and now it's going to go to the state level. So that'll be interesting to see as well. And of course, there was a march. When was that? Last week there was a march about this downtown, and we had some of our union members there. Some of the other entertainment unions were there, like Actors Equity and IATSE, the Stagehands Union, and the AFM were there, and other unemployed groups. Unemployed Action, I think, was the group of unemployed folks that were there, that were also writing letters and marching there. So, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. But the point's been made that people still need help. And yeah. A lot of folks saw the interview last week. Did you see that on television? It was about a certain restaurant in West Austin on the lake.
You want to mention?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So, sort of talking about how no one wants to work, quote unquote, and yeah, they didn't make a very good case for themselves, and of course didn't actually mention why anyone would want to work there. It was all. So yeah, and of course, that the other thing is that that this decision to cut off the unemployment aid, um, was made by our governor with pressure from business groups.
Right.
And there was no actual research as to like whether or not these unemployment benefits were actually stopping people from going back to work at the businesses that they were talking about. And it gets worse because now that this has happened, and and we don't see people going back to work in mass either. There's no real research that can be done that can refute that because it wasn't based on research to begin with. So, it's like, yeah, it's disappointing to see, but
Yeah, those suits are being filed because people are getting these suits because there's no fault of them.
that's right.
They're not. They've done everything that has been asked of them, and no other alternative.
Hmm.
And in terms of people not going back to work, I mean, there are still unsafe environments,
Oh yeah.
and there are still reasons why people just can't right now.
Hmm.
There are child care issues that they're unsolved.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And people have sick relatives,
Yep.
that can't be exposed,
Yep.
that can't get vaccinated in some cases, right? So that's another thing we have to keep
Yep.
in mind. I mean, there are people who are hesitant to be vaccinated, but there are people also
Yep.
that cannot be vaccinated either. And
Yep.
so, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
it's
let's be frank.
mm,
COVID hasn't gone away. It's not eradicated.
no, yeah, yeah. In fact, cases are going up because of this new variant.
Yep.
And it doesn't seem to be among vaccinated people, but there are still a lot of unvaccinated people. So
Yep.
it's definitely going to come up for sure. Um, so we'll have a link to that article in the Statesman. I think that's a subscribers only article, unfortunately, though. So, but we'll also have the original article about the unemployment benefits being cut off on June 26th rather. That article was from May, but we'll have that in the show notes as well. Um, Gosh, have you heard anything more about the eviction moratorium this week? I haven't
I
seen it in
tried.
the news, but
I tried to follow up on that, and there wasn't anything additionally
hmm
put there. I mean, the city still has that moratorium still in effect
Hmm.
from our mayor, but that's supposed to run out at, I believe, the 1st of August.
Yeah, it's hard to
And
keep track of
yeah,
all these things running out at different times. Yeah, yeah.
and I don't know what he will do with that after then. I mean,
Hmm.
he's being pressured by the governor to do it now.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah. We'll keep an eye on that as well, of course. Yeah, that could be really meaningful for a
yeah,
lot of our people. So, geez. Okay. Well, should we move on to the PRO Act
sure.
stuff? Yeah, man. We had a great conversation over the weekend and yesterday about the PRO Act in the office here, and um, yeah, of course that's the best shot we've had at restoring you know power to the workers that's been eroded over the last 50 to 70 years or so. And yeah, I guess should we put that presentation up?
Yeah,
Yeah, you want to try that? Let's see if I can get it going here. Do you have it on your device already, Russell?
I do.
You do. Okay, cool. So maybe I can just share it with the viewers here. Oh no, put it over. Where did I put it? No, that's not it. There it is. Okay. Yeah, man. So this is from a presentation we saw over the weekend, and it starts on the very first slide. What is the PRO Act? And the PRO starts or stands for Protect the Right to Organize Act. And it has been misquoted in the media several times as the People's Right to Organize Act, which sort of makes it get mixed up with the For the People Act as well,
Right.
which is totally understandable because they're both very very important legislation that's been happening right now. The For the People Act is the one from last week that was in the national legislature that got. What happened with that last week? They did a test vote, right, and then
They did a
decided.
test vote,
Yeah,
and it didn't go anywhere.
yeah. This is a different act, and this has been on the table, for over I think a couple of years now, right? It was brought in at the end of the Trump administration, and it's still there, and but it's more important than ever because we're seeing how eroded the power
Yeah.
of working people has become in the U.S.
Well,
Um,
it has passed the House,
hmm.
and it's just the holdup is the Senate.
Yes, yeah, as we've been seeing over the last
Yeah,
10 years or so, right?
yeah,
And the probably the entire Mitch McConnell era, I suppose.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, man. So yeah, it's 213 House co-sponsors. This is the House of Representatives, and 47 Senate co-sponsors, publicly supported by the Biden administration as well. So that helps a lot too to have the executive office, supporting it. It's a comprehensive overhaul of the National Labor Relations Act, and it would be the most significant change in labor laws since the Taft-Hartley Act of 1947. And we're in Texas. We're in what they call a right to work state or an
right.
anti-union state, and that's 1947 is the year when Texas became a right to work or
Right to work
anti-union
state.
state because it was allowed by the Taft-Hartley Act. So yeah, so that's a long time ago, right? I mean that's how many? It's 74 years ago now. It's a long time. It could allow the next point. It could allow tens of millions of workers to join unions. That's the big thing about it. It gets rid of a lot of the restrictions about people joining unions or forming unions in their workplace or affiliating with a union. It creates a bigger power base for working families to press lawmakers on legislation that benefits the middle and working class. And that's what we're seeing, even in the state of Texas now. There's legislation that would ban road workers from having water breaks. I mean, what?
Yeah, that's insane.
It's like what? And it's just getting hotter out there, folks. I mean, yeah, it's like they're trying to kill workers almost.
Well, you
So
know that's in that voting right thing too, where
yeah,
you can't offer people water that are in line to vote.
they're in line to vote. Yeah, they're trying
Yeah,
to
that's
starve us
insane.
out. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just amazing. Yeah, that you would even think to do that. Yeah. Should we go on to the next slide?
Sure.
The next one is, what does the PRO Act do? It gives workers more rights. We'll get into more specifics later on, but it allows more workers to form unions, like we were saying. It gives unions more power in a lot of different ways. And of course, unions are, what are unions made up of? Workers.
Workers.
Yeah, that's just how workers, gather their power together is with unions. So it gives
And
workers more power to.
something that's important there is that unions are the only group that can legally collectively bargain.
Hmm. That's right. Yeah. 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 Absolutely, man. So yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, it's the only way to really, um, resolve these issues
Hmm.
is by forming a union with your fellow workers and actually negotiating with the employer. And it's the only way you can. I mean, the employers are huge, in a lot of cases. I mean, sometimes it's little small businesses, but the places where the unions are needed the most is when the businesses are big, you know, like big multinational corporations. In our case, of course, we're talking about the record labels, but it's not the record labels anymore. The record labels are owned by multimedia conglomerates, that are multinational multimedia conglomerates that own.
Yeah.
They own the record labels, they own the movie studios, the TV stations, the radio stations, they own the streaming companies, they own both the video streaming and the music streaming companies. They own most of now. um, so the only way you can negotiate with a conglomerate of that size, that isn't even beholden to a single country,
Yeah.
is you got to have a union, and so, and we got to have a bigger union with more power.
Yeah.
And yeah.
The music business is a pyramid. I mean,
Hmm.
there's the us at the bottom, and it gets smaller as you go up.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
very few up there that, and if you don't have strength to get there, to talk to those people up there, you have no chance.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, man. So, um, let's see, it weakens employers' power, which is important to do as well. Now, why do
Yeah.
we want to weaken our employers' power? Well, we don't want to weaken their power to make money, and that's not what this does. It just weakens their power to exploit the workers. That's the power that it weakens, not their power um, to build revenue,
Right.
because that's what we all want. It is ultimately a capitalist
Yeah.
system, and unions are not against capitalism. That's a common
Yeah.
misconception. we're against unfettered capitalism. Um, yeah.
Profit makes the world go around.
Yeah, brother. Yeah,
And
man.
we want our share too. But we want you to make profits because that's how we stay here.
Hmm. Yeah. And then the fifth point is it gives the NLRB teeth, and it has a little asterisk that explains the NLRB is the National Labor Relations Board, which is originally a national board that was supposed to protect workers, and in the last probably 10 years or so, it has sort of turned around and has been working against workers.
Yeah.
So that's something that needs to turn around a lot. And so this is going to give that board, more power to enforce. So I guess, Russell, what you and I had talked about was just maybe doing a little bit of number one today, and then going
Hmm.
back to number five, and then maybe next week we'll do 2 and 5, and the week after that we'll do 3 and 5, and then 4 and 5, or something like that. Does that still sound like a good plan?
Good plan to me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's just do this first point here. Gives workers more rights. How does it give workers more rights?
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Like
man. So,
bans capital audience meetings.
what is that?
And what is that? That means they can't blow you off. It means that they have to come to the table. Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, if you don't have a union shop, you can request meetings all you want, and
Mm-hmm.
management doesn't have to comply,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to observe you. I mean, go back to work.
But
We'll handle it.
more importantly, what they mean by captive audience meetings is, right now an employer, if you're trying to, you're making some noise about organizing, your employer can require all the workers to come to a meeting, and they can have they can bring in a what they call a union busting firm to tell you all kinds of quote unquote facts
Horror
that are
stories.
really that are really lies about how bad unions are and how bad it is. Yeah, and it's always the same things. They'll always tell you like, oh, the union's going to get in between the workers and the supervisors, and you won't be able to talk to your supervisor without talking to the union rep, or stuff like that. Or unions are going to put us out of business, or unions are going to cause us to move our factory to Mexico or something like that. Just all kinds of things that they it basically gives them a platform for scare tactics about unions. We don't see this a whole lot with music, but you see it sometimes with orchestras for
Yeah.
sure.
And
Yeah.
one of the ones that I've heard is that, well, you have OSHA. That's what they're for.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like, no, not really.
hmm And we've even seen, I mean, throughout the pandemic, OSHA really hasn't had a presence at all because it's been
No.
so demoralized and weakened by the NLRB and the previous administration, and sort of the anti worker policies that have been implemented in our national government. So that's why the Pro Act is so needed. Um, excuse me. The next one is closes loophole in labor law that hurt immigrant workers. And so, there's a lot of things, and a lot of folks, say, oh, well, why should we, you know, protect the immigrant workers? They're going to take our jobs. But that's the thing. If we don't allow employers to exploit immigrant workers, then there'll be more jobs and better jobs for everyone. You see that's kind of how that works. If employers are not allowed to, basically underpay workers just because they're immigrants, that means that they're going to have to pay everyone a living wage, and they'll be
Yeah.
less likely to hire immigrant workers and more likely to hire people that live here. So that really kind of helps everybody. So, yeah. Prevents employers from forcing workers to waive their right to sue, and that's what we've been talking about. That the whole pandemic, right? The
Yep. Hmm.
the liability waivers, right?
Yep.
And we have seen employers doing that where you have to sign this. It's ridiculous, and you should not do it. Um,
Ever.
but this would make it illegal, and it should be illegal. I mean,
Hmm.
the employer is responsible for providing a safe workplace, so it shouldn't even be an issue, but it is. So we've got to fix it. Uh, yeah, man. The next one is allows a private right of action for violators of workers' rights. So that means the employees can sue. It
Hmm.
guarantees the right that for violations of workers' rights, there are actual consequences. Whereas right now, there are fines, but they're really tiny. They're really not. They're not punitive at all. They don't really punish the employers at all. They've been reduced so much. Um,
They're really not a stop on the wrist. They're really nothing.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then what's this one? Add, adds
Add
whistleblower.
whistleblower protection.
Yeah. Who's that? Who's the whistleblower? I mean, we got some whistleblowers in the union, right? I mean, it's the slide whistle thing.
Sure.
No,
Hmm.
no. What are they talking about here?
When I see stuff like this, I remember that officer that, and when I say officer, he's an Army guy, that walked down there in front of Congress to testify.
Mm-hmm.
No sooner than he walked out of that courtroom, they yanked his rank.
Mm.
And that's what happens to whistleblowers.
Mm-hmm.
Should never have happened.
He was blowing the whistle about something
Hmm.
that was wrong
Hmm.
in the chain of command, or in the it wasn't even the chain of command, right? It was it
Nah,
was
wasn't
in
him.
it was in
This is
the
what
White
was
House,
going on.
wasn't it? Right?
He was told to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a lifetime soldier. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
he used the chain of command properly,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what he got.
Yeah. 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 So this would add protections for people who
Hmm.
blow the whistle on things that are going wrong. And of course, I mean, that was in the government, but we're
Hmm.
talking about in like private employers.
Yeah,
It's even worse. When it's a private employer, they
you're
can
gone.
shove it under the rug, and yeah, and you don't hear about it on the news.
Yeah,
So yeah, there needs to be protection for those people when there's an actual violation of labor law happening. Um, and then the last one is clarifies that employees have the right to use their employer's electronic property to communicate, and that's another thing right now. If you have a work email address, you're not allowed to use that email address to communicate about unionizing or
hmm,
organizing or anything, about um, workers' rights, anything about worker safety or anything like that. um, which is kind of ridiculous, right? I mean, a lot of
of
people
course it
use
is.
their work email as their primary email, and um, yeah, yeah. So um, yeah, it sort of clarifies that, right? Because that's kind of become murky, and some employers, have said like, oh well, we find your union emails on your work email, we can fire you, and
Yep.
that's not even really true under current law, but certain employers have used that as a scare tactic. So this would clarify that, and that will make it easier for everyone to organize and to achieve better working conditions, because they won't have that fear hanging over their head all the time.
Well,
So,
I think your words sums it up. It's a scare tactic.
yeah.
You can't call your union shop steward. You can't concentrate on your work. You have to leave to go call this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get on you about not being at your desk.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, man. I'm not sure how that would apply in the music biz necessarily. Most of us don't have
desk.
employers or desks. Yeah, that's right too. Yeah, but what helps all employees, with unions will help all of us.
Oh, sure.
We
Um,
benefit from the greater labor movement as well. So yeah.
oh yeah, because if we're playing a festival or something, and the bathroom is 100 yards away, and you got to go, and they want you back on stage, and you're like, we would use about 20 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and here you come sprinting to get back up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. It's about dignity in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. Yeah. Yeah, man. Okay, well let's skip down to number 5 like we were talking, and we're not gonna skip these forever. We're gonna come back to number 2, 3, 4 in the next few weeks, but let's skip down to number 5 right now, and because we figured this was one of the more important things, is that the PRO Act will give the NLRB teeth. Uh, and so, what are we talking about here in number 5? It authorizes meaningful penalties for violating workers' rights, and that's similar to what we just talked about a little bit. It increases the amount of the fines, and actually expands it to things that might not be fines, that might be more useful, right, to helping workers, Um, so, let's see. I'm trying to think how this would apply to the music business. Well, it's a couple years ago, like the show, the singing show. I'm trying to do it without mentioning the actual name of the show. what show? Which channel is that on? Was one of the singing shows. They got in trouble because they hadn't paid their musicians properly. Like they had shorted their checks for like a year, like a long time, and so and all they had to do was they just had to pay the difference. They had to pay what they owed, um, and that's a pretty serious violation. It's a
Sure.
paycheck
Yeah.
violation, and I don't think there was any real penalties other than just paying what they owed. So the National Labor Relations Board would be able to impose more of a of a punishment for that type of thing, and that could be very good. It could be like an interest payment or something like
Sure.
that, or a fine that would go to the NLRB or maybe the AFM for enforcing that and doing all the research for finding those accounting errors, that type of thing, because that definitely costs money, And
Mm-hmm.
whenever the union has to spend resources on researching, where these accounting errors happen, that costs money, and,
Yep.
and
Cost money. Sure
yeah,
does.
and that's what our dues go for, but if the unions could recoup some of that when those violations have happened, that could be very useful for building worker power,
Mhm.
that type of thing, or maybe it could go, I don't know, maybe part of the fine could go somewhere else, or it could be just some sort of maybe the offender would have to agree to some sort of oversight to their accounting, that would prevent that from happening in the future. That type of thing. We're just kind of spitballing here, but
No, it's real because it like a gigging musician goes and does a date at the club, and you kind of get shorted. The guy says, "Well, we didn't make enough to cover."
oh yeah,
No, that's not my problem.
yeah,
As long as you have a union signed contract, that's between you and your audience. Here's what I need to get paid.
yep, yeah, yeah. That's a great point, Russell. Yeah, and that seems like the smaller end compared to what we were just
Hmm.
talking about, but it's important to us.
Sure.
It's really important to us.
Hmm.
And yeah, exactly. When you have a union contract, the union lawyers will get involved with that if they
Hmm.
violate that. Um, and of course, right now, usually we're just going the same thing. We're going for the difference. We're just trying to get you paid for the thing, but it costs money on the other side, and that's what our dues go for. If you could get more damages from the employer in that case, then it would be even less likely to happen, right?
Hmm.
And I think under certain circumstances you can do that right now, but the PRO Act would help us do that. And that,
Sure.
yeah, yeah. It allows, the next point is, allows the NLRB to enforce its own rulings, which that's kind of puzzling, right? Like how can, so NLRB against the National Labor Relations Board, how are they not allowed to enforce their own rulings? And it turns out that that's true. They have to go to a different agency, actually a couple of different agencies, in order to actually enforce anything that they rule on about labor violations. So I think it's the Justice Department and a few other departments. They can't actually do anything on their own, so they have to make the decision, and then they have to appeal to other governmental agencies to actually enforce it. So the PRO Act would actually allow the National Labor Relations Board to enforce these things that they decide on, which is really good. Um,
Yep.
yeah, and then the last one is also puzzling. We talked about this over the weekend too. That's why we got to keep bringing this up. The last thing is the PRO Act will repeal the Taft-Hartley Act's, the Taft-Hartley Act's ban on the NLRB hiring economists. Now remember, the Taft-Hartley Act was in 1947, and there was a ban in 1947 in that act that disallowed the National Labor Relations Board from hiring its own economists. Now, why? Why is that there? That's so puzzling. Isn't that amazing? I
You just shake your head. And go, what does this do?
yeah, yeah. Why is that there? Why would you not want to have economists available to the National Labor Relations Board of the United States? Like what?
The only reason I can think of is that you would want your guy in there who's going to say whatever you want,
Mm-hmm.
who's going to cook the books the way you want them.
Yeah, yeah. I guess, or you don't want, I guess you would put that in the law um, if you don't want the National Labor Relations Board to be able to tell that you're cooking the books, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. So I think that's as far as we're going to go today, right? But um, we'll kind of make our way through the other points in this presentation over the next few weeks. We're going to talk about the ABC test for deciding if a worker is an employee or a
Contractor.
contractor. Yeah, but I think we can every week we talk about the PRO Act. We can kind of reassure musicians that like the PRO Act does not force anybody to move from being a contractor to an employee. Like, it gives you the ability to do that if you want to.
Yeah.
But it's not going to force anybody to do that. And that's what our brothers and sisters in California have been talking about the last few years with that. What was it, AB5 out there that granted more people the right to actually be an employee if they want to be. Yeah, so that's definitely not what this act does. But it gives people, more rights when they want to be an employee. Versus a contractor. If you want to stay a contractor, you can stay a contractor, and this is not going to interfere with that at all. But it is going to increase your power as a contractor in a lot of ways.
I mean, you get choice, and choice is good.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and power is good. That's
Power is good. Yeah.
That's what we need. Because we're getting the floor wiped with us. Working people all over this country are just. Yeah, and the pandemic has really demonstrated that to all of us. So, yeah, man, cool. All right. Well, is there anything else we should talk about before we sign off, Russell?
I can't think of anything else.
It's the ProAct stuff is. I mean, it's a heavy topic. So maybe we'll close with that the next few weeks. And
sure, I would just say that I would encourage people to go and read that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very interesting, and if we can get that passed, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, you should learn as much as you can about it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and also like tell your friends.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things you could do is word of mouth. Really talk about it with your not only your friends but your fellow workers. And of course, with music, a lot of times those are our friends, right? The people we see on the bandstand, and that we're able to blessedly go out and see again now, which has been so joyful over the last month or so. Really getting back out there. Oh my gosh, I know you're working tonight. I worked last night.
Tonight, yeah.
And oh my gosh, it's just been amazing to be able to work again. It's still slow coming back, but we're gonna get there.
I'm excited about that. Looking at my gear, going, it's getting used.
Yes, yes. Oh man, you wearing the shirt? I see you wearing the shirt. You're using that bass tonight, right?
Yes, sir. It's getting used.
Yeah. I love it. All right, man. All right. Well, if you, the viewer, are in the music business, don't give up. Things are coming back. It's going to be slow, but really try to do it right. Get a contract. Join the union. We can do this together, and we can build more power than we had before. Because everybody is really starting to realize that we need it. The workers need more power than we have right now, and it's putting everything out of balance. So we need to reset that balance, and we can do it. So, all right. Well, we will see you next week with similar topics and the next installment of the ProAct presentation. And we will see you then. Take care.